I'm going to read straight from our text line.
Oh, okay.
A little bit of a running, running writing, if you will. This is from all kinds of numbers all over the Bay Area. Not to sound cynical, but it just sounds like Draymond's going to get a technical his first game back. He doesn't sound like a man that's changed his ways. 707, stop playing him. That bleep is annoying. 510, this dude should be an actor or a politician. 707, it's ruining my day hearing this. 510, love Dre, but this is all hot air. Draymond is loving this moment. I hope you guys call this news conference what it is. Utter bleep. He certainly loves to hear himself talk. Gosh, let's see. What a bleeped up way to think. He lost 2 chips for the team. He's not sorry about his antics. Somebody ask him about attending LeBron's party. I could keep going. What'd you think?
Well, I mean, he lost 2 chips. How did he lose 2 chips? The one he lost led to 2 more that they won. So if you want to play the chips won versus chips lost game, they don't get KD if they win that chip. So if he lost that chip, then they don't get the next 2. So we can play that game if you want. But I thought that he was great, and I thought it was an outgrowth of the podcast where he showed real contrition. He showed an awareness I've never heard. He apologized, and I do think that he's ready to come back and try to be different. Now, he's not going to be guaranteed 100% different, but he knows what he needs to do differently, and I'm here to allow for the ability for any human being to change.
Phony as hell. He's like Aaron Rodgers. He just loves attention. Draymond is gone soft, and I don't like it. Draymond is playing the victim card.
There's nothing about him being the victim.
There's a couple in here of I loved the.
There
Draymond
was nothing
interview
that he said that to me spoke to him being a victim.
I agree with you.
He spoke to being, mostly deserving of what he got and being reflective of the time he had away. And I thought that it was really interesting that he talked about how hard it was to actually come back, and that jarring moment of him being cleared, like, oh God, I'm cleared. And now that leads me back to stress. All the things, the stress of going back to doing the things that I've done already. And I do think that he's going to be a little bit different in terms of engaging officials. And I think that I'm hopeful that he's able to contain his physicality when it comes to flagrants and the opponent. And I know that from my own self and my own anger issues that I have, it's not as easy as, oh, I want to change and therefore I will change. It's an ongoing thing. It's an ongoing battle.
And he said he'll have losses. He'll have slips. He'll make mistakes. Good afternoon. It's Willard and Dibs. I don't want to make the assumption that everybody's been glued to the radio for the last hour listening to Draymond Green and then Steve Kerr. And Steve Kerr will be on with us live in exactly 3 hours. So we'll have all kinds of follow-up there, and can't wait to talk to the coach and certainly invite you to listen. But this is what I would say to start off. And this is like, let's just talk about today, because I don't think anybody's asking for you Warrior fans to listen to a press conference and now decide that means everything that's gone on goes away. I don't think anybody's suggesting that. But Dibs, man, I'm with you. I thought that was a freaking home run on 2 levels. Number one, I'm with you that he said exactly not just the right things, because certain people know what to say, but how to say it.
Right.
It's kind of like the whole apology when people say, I'm sorry if you were offended.
Or sorry,
I'm
but.
sorry,
Yeah.
but.
Yeah.
This is why, and Steve Kerr even spoke to that afterwards, where he's like, if the apology comes with an explanation after it, it's not an apology. And so Draymond hit the right tone. There was a lot of, I messed up. There was a lot of self-reflection. There was a lot of, I've cost the Warriors a lot. You know what I really loved is when he started going deep into how many human beings have their own financial welfare attached to the Warriors' success. And he's like, forget the roster.
Exactly.
Forget the coaches.
Exactly.
He's like, we've made plenty of money. He's like, do you know how many people who are on wages rely on us to not mess up?
Well, think about if attendance goes down by 20%.
There you go.
That's 20% of the ushers, 20% of the concessionaires, 20% of the ticket people, 20% of the security, 20% of everything goes away in theory if Chase Center now has, hey, tonight's attendance, 10,411. Well, how many people lose their jobs based on all of those things? And he feels that.
So here's the other part that I absolutely loved. And maybe this is because of the business we're in, Dibs, that I appreciate this so much. Do all of you know how freaking difficult it is to speak from the heart about something that's emotional for 45 minutes, unscripted, and sound like that? I'm sorry. There's zero chance that was insincere. Zero.
It was a mix of comfortable and uncomfortable.
Totally.
And when he was uncomfortable, he would pause and he would think about it, and then he would give an answer that I thought was from the heart. It wasn't just like, well, the league has spoken and my team has spoken and I'm going to do my best. And you know what, guys? I'm going to take it one possession at a time. There was none of that. It was honest. It was reflective. And he listened to questions that were tough. And he thought about it, and he gave good answers.
Yeah, that's not easy.
No.
There's a very, very small percentage of the world that can handle a moment like that, and he did, and I fully am aware of the fact that some of you will reject some of the things he said. This is somebody who said in this press conference, I'm a people person. I really care about people. I know that there are Warrior fans who have a hard time believing that. But all the way down to, did you hear the way he addressed each reporter each time it came to a new, right? Janie and Logan and Kendra and Slates. You need to go around the room and how he would, I'm going to look you in the eye. Hey, nice to see you.
Yeah.
I haven't seen you for about 4 or 5 weeks. I'm going to take your question. I'm not going to dodge anything. Very, very difficult to pull off. So to me, it's automatically authentic. It's automatically authentic. I'm fully aware that they're just words. So that it's not like, okay, cool, the story's over, but that was an important step in this process. Because one thing Draymond is fully aware of, because if you listen to him talk, my God, you can tell how smart he is. That is a smart man. Very, very smart. Maybe he comes off almost as too smart, which is why some people think that he's lacking sincerity. But he's incredibly smart, and Draymond knows that he needs to win a lot of you back.
Yeah.
He's got to win a lot of you back.
He's got to win a lot of them back, and then by winning them back, then he'll win us back. And by them, I mean his teammates, the coaching staff, the front office, and everyone else with the organization, because those are the people that he owes the most to. He owes almost nothing to us as the fans. All he owes us as a fan base is his best effort. And the one thing that I took away, it's a word that I've been waiting to hear from him in terms of what he's going to stop, and it's antics. He said, I need to stop the antics, and I'm going to stop the antics. And to me, antics are complaining on every call. Antics are, getting technicals and getting thrown out. Antics are, after you get thrown out, running around the arena and having the visiting crowd raise the roof. Antics are cheap-shotting opponents and punching Nurkic in the face and choking Gobert. Those are all the antics. So I look forward to seeing him stop the antics, and if he does that, then I think that everyone else will accept him as I have.
We'd love to take some calls. And unfortunately, I mean, I hate to sort of package it this way, but based on the commentary, whether it be on social media, on our YouTube feed, glad to have you with us as always, and all the commentary coming through there, I almost feel like asking buy or sell, welcome back or not. Because let's be real, we've been talking about this off and on all year long, and there are plenty of Warrior fans who are just like, I'm done. I'm done. I have no space left for this player. Did the last hour change your mind at all? I wasn't there. I'm not done with Draymond Green. We spent a good portion of the show yesterday, at least from my standpoint, saying the big three are still totally off limits. Totally off limits if you want to talk about trades and maneuvers, roster construction. They are still completely dedicated to the big three, and I think the big three are still completely dedicated to one another. But I know a lot of you wish that it were different. So I wonder where a lot of you are, because I also know what I'm looking at on Twitter and YouTube is negatively slanted, because that's the nature of social media.
Of course. So, I mean, if you look at just the optics of today, if Steve Kerr was ready to say, Draymond, go bye-bye, I don't think that he comes out and speaks after Draymond Green. If the organization was ready to part ways with him, then they would have played this a lot differently. So I do think what you're talking about in terms of the big three is accurate, because they're going to rally around Draymond Green. Steph is, Clay is, the front office is, Steve did. And so here we go. He comes back most likely on Friday for Chicago, or the game after that when he gets cleared by Rick Celebrini. The fact that he was back at practice today running around, and Draymond said in his press conference today that he thought he was in pretty good shape. So he's coming back, and I don't think he's coming back so they can showcase him to trade him before the deadline.
No, he's coming back because they need a savior. No, they do. I don't know if it's him or not. They need to start playing better basketball. And I still believe they play better basketball when he's on the team. And they need to start playing better basketball right now.
Yeah.
5:30 tomorrow night.
No doubt. And I don't know if that's going to be good enough, or what that means for, TJD or for Kuminga or for Looney or for the rest of it. But he has to start playing well. They have to start playing well to make this year continue to be significant and get them into a play-in or maybe a playoff scenario, depending on how well they can play over the course of their final 45 or 50 games or whatever the number is. But I thought today, just the way he went about it, the tone he struck, it was a lot like the podcast. It's easier to do that on a podcast when you control the message.
Right.
Today, he was answering questions, and I thought that he did a great job of taking it one by one and kind of walking people through honestly with where he was.
Oh, man. I thought he did great. I thought he did great. But this is going to be a true litmus test, because this is the kind of situation where if stop me if I use any words that you think don't apply, but if someone said, describe the characteristics of Draymond Green in this press conference, engaging, honest, self-reflective, authentic. I could add some more, but that's how I took him. And for anybody out there who feels the same, then the question becomes, did that adjust anything with regard to how you see this? Because, again, I know we're a sports radio station, therefore the callers that we take or the social media we read are going to skew on the negative end of what's actually being thought out there. But it's been a steady stream in the world, and Draymond admitted on his podcast that he heard all this. It's been a steady stream of people saying, done. I got no more space for this.
Well, let's hear from you at 888-957-9570, because what we hear from people on the phone, when you actually have to put your voice to it, I think is a little bit more of an honest reflection of what people feel. Because when you're on the YouTube feed, and I love our YouTube audience at YouTube/957 The Game, you can put up your handle and you can blast away. And if you're on the text line, you can blast away. If you're on Twitter, you can fire away and all the rest of it. But when you actually have to put your voice to it and you have to actually speak to it, I feel like that's a little bit more of an honest reflection for how people feel. And I've been very critical of Draymond, and I've been anti-Draymond and his antics. And I wonder now how he comes back, how he's going to be. And I will give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
I look forward to giving him that benefit of the doubt. But that being said, the next time he does what he's done, it's not going to be okay.
Well, it's over. It's over if that happens.
Well, it depends on what he does.
Well,
if it's a flagrant 2, if it's if it's just a garden variety technical foul.
If it's a basketball play, then it's a basketball play.
Right. It might be a basketball play that's a flagrant 2.
Well,
and he might be suspended for a game. But if he goes out and does, a non-basketball thing
totally
of, what we've seen in the past couple of months, he's gone for 20 or 30 or more.
The rest of the year is probably, that's what would happen next. We'll start to play some of the cuts. Our staff is working their butt off right now, putting it all together and piecing it all together. I did want to say this too. One other point that I think is important, and I'm not going to fix this. You're not going to fix this. There's nothing that will ever fix this, but I still want to say it out loud. I really wish we could move past the jealousy that we all have of people who get to play sports for a living and make $100 million. And here's why I say that. When I listen to Draymond Green talk about how stressful this job is and how when the league got on a call with him and said the words return to play, his whole body tightened up like, oh God, like I'm going to have to go back out there. It's like I could hear his words and I already know exactly where a good, healthy portion of the Warrior fan base or any fan base will go with that. Nobody wants to feel sorry for somebody who in their 30s has money taken care of for the rest of their lives, gets to play basketball, and retire before age 40. Take a listen to specifically what Draymond said, and then I'll finish that point.
I was on one of my calls with the league, with the PA and Rich and Rick and Mike. And then they start talking about all right, a return date. And my body was like it just immediately tensed up. And I was like, whoa, that was interesting to me, because it also further confirmed for me what I had already been thinking about the time that I had off and just sitting away from everything and how relaxed I was with everything. And to just hear the word return to play and tense up immediately, it was just kind of a reminder, of okay, you're going to start discussing the return now. That's great, but you can't fall right back into the tense place. And I think that was such a great moment for me to have, because the last thing I would want is to come back and have that moment when I'm going on the court, And so to have that moment, the first time I heard the word return, I thought was also a step for me in the right direction, because, wow, you're able to process that right away, as opposed to living through it. And then it's figuring it out after the fact,
Are we willing to give these players that? I certainly am. I know a
give
lot
them
of
what?
Well, here's
the
what
idea
I mean.
of stress.
Well, obviously, everybody experiences stress.
I'll give every human being that place, because to me, stress is being a single parent and wondering if you can make your mortgage payment or make the rent, or you've got a red notice on your PG&E. That's stress. And if he feels stress, then he feels stress. We all feel stress. That's a very human condition. So I'm not going to say because he has a 4-year deal worth $100 million that he can't feel stress. I'll say this: the stress he feels is different than the stress I feel, and different than the stress that the listener feels.
Maybe.
Every stress is different.
It's a different subject.
I feel stress in a way that you don't feel stress, and you feel stress in a way that I don't feel stress.
Right, but what it does to our body might be the exact same thing.
It could be.
It's a different subject matter, but it's the same thing. And that's something...
If playing basketball stresses him out,
well,
then maybe he shouldn't play basketball.
I really try hard to imagine. I can't walk in other shoes.
Sure.
But I can try to imagine.
Oh, I try to imagine it too.
I can try to imagine, and I know that when we go, oh, gosh, walk in Draymond's shoes, boy, that must be tough with the whole $200 million and everything. Boy, that must... I get that. That's money, and you're right. Draymond does not need to worry about money. But just imagine for a second that you had a job where every day when you showed up, people paid thousands of dollars to come see you do a good job. And if you don't do a good job, they're mad and they're disappointed and it's talked about and that's public and that gets to last sometimes 2, 3, 4 days before you get to go out there and try it again. To me, that goes hand in hand with what he said about his awareness of how many people rely on the Warrior players to play well. And therefore, if they don't play well, those people might financially struggle. Their jobs might struggle. I want to acknowledge that that's, in my opinion, very fair. That is very fair.
It's all fair in terms of individual stress.
I dislike the cynicism that goes with you're a professional athlete. Oh, boo-hoo, you're not allowed to tell me that something's hard.
You can tell me whatever you want to tell me. It's your reality. I would say this, though, from the outside looking at Draymond, a good portion of his stress has been created by his own behavior. I don't know if Andrew Wiggins feels that same level of stress of being a pro basketball player.
Well, I get everything that Draymond did.
So maybe Draymond needs to hang out with Wiggs and, go 4 for 9 and just chill on the weak side, and maybe that would help the stress level.
But you're talking about the self-created problems, which is obvious. It's inherent.
For sure with Draymond Green.
Absolutely. But if he's talking about hey, we're down by 3 with 5 seconds to go and the ball ended up in my hand and I'm letting fly on a 3-pointer, and it might not go in. In fact, even the best in the world, less than 50-50 that it's going to go in, and that is stressful. He has got a fishbowl job.
Yeah, but I don't think
that's stressful.
Not every player in the association has the same level of stress, and I would argue that Draymond Green's stress level is higher than others because of what he has created.
Partially.
I don't think that Klay Thompson, for example, feels that same level of stress.
You sure?
I would guess. I've never heard Klay Thompson use the word stress.
I think we've seen it.
But you've never heard him talk about, man, I'm really stressed out right now.
He's less with words than Draymond is.
Sure.
And so maybe he can't do as good of a job of explaining it. But when I watch Tim Kawakami go, hey, Klay, how you doing? And he's like, what, you want to bench me? That's stress. You're watching.
Yeah, it's not stress.
That's
it's anger.
Totally. And where do you think the anger comes from?
The anger comes from getting cut off by somebody in a Prius today on Main Street and having him get out of the car and me get out of the car and say, yeah, you want to dance?
Did you really?
Of course, dude. You're not going to, some Uber driver.
Got out of the car?
He got out first. And then I opened my door.
Be careful, dude.
And then now you're out and I'm out. Okay.
Be careful.
You're out and I'm out. Now
careful.
What?
But be careful.
You better be careful, Prius driver.
What? No.
You know what, though?
I'm not trying to pin you. You sat in this seat and looked at, was it Spadone? Who was it that you gave kind of the dad talk?
Lubman and Spadone.
About the bikes, about the scooters.
Wear a helmet.
Okay,
Wear a helmet.
Well, I'm going to look at you and give you the dad talk of, dude, stay in your car.
I only get out
when
I know that getting out's going to be okay.
No,
he got out.
You don't know.
And I looked and I thought, you know what?
You don't
I'm
know.
Getting out.
But you don't know.
Yeah, he doesn't know either.
You don't know what's in his pocket.
It wasn't stress, Mark.
No.
There was nothing stressful about it. It was pure, unadulterated road rage.
Which is
it's a clean emotion.
Which is the result.
It felt so good.
Of stress.
Nah.
Or lack of sleep. Or whatever.
No, I'm good.
The way we react. Now you are.
I was good.
Now
I was ready.